Now, the cold-blooded murder of lawyer Willie Kimani, his client and the taxi driver is still disturbing many in Kenya and beyond. And human rights groups say it's part of systematic extrajudicial killings that have been going on for a while across the country. Authorities, however, say such cases should be treated as individual cases rather than condemning the security enforcement agencies. What do you think? Keep talking to us on 22422 on Twitter using the hashtag The Big Question. In studio tonight, police spokesman Charles Owino, thank you so much for making time for The Big Question. And Peter Kiama, the executive director of the Independent Medico-Legal Unit. In short, I'll just say IMLU. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight. You say the latest case points to a trend, and you actually have numbers. Why do you say that?
Sorry, come on.
You said the latest trend. What happened to the lawyer, Willie Kimani, his client, and the taxi driver, points to a trend. Like there's been extrajudicial killing, systematic going on. Why do you say that, and do you have the numbers?
Yeah, that's correct. That what happened to our brothers, Willie Kimani, Josephat Mwenda, and Joseph Miruri, is a continuation of a trend that we have observed in the last 5 years. And therefore, it's very sad that this has ended up in extending now to advocates of the High Court. But before I say anything, I'd like to mention that this evening is a very sad evening because we have just received the post-mortem report of the 3 bodies. And the report is shocking because these 3 Kenyans were subjected to the worst kind of torture. They were bludgeoned to death. They had multiple injuries. The advocate had multiple injuries to the head. You know, he had other multiple injuries on other part of the body. The taxi driver was strangled to death. The other gentleman, his chest was, attacked with brute force. So they all died through serious torture, and there are signs that this is a clear case of torture of the worst kind that we have seen since Kengongo. If you remember the Kengongo 6.
Right, having said that again, our condolences to family.
So our condolences to family again. And I would like to mention that it's not about the numbers anymore. It is about human dignity in this country. The numbers to me and to us now do not matter, and I would like Kenyans not to focus on the numbers anymore. The numbers are important, but I think let's focus on human dignity. And if you focus on human dignity, I do feel as a Kenyan and as a country that we failed Willie, we failed Josephat, we failed Joseph.
But this is grave when you say these are extrajudicial killings that have been going on. Why do you say that? I say that because our investigations clearly show that in most of the cases that we have documented, there's clear evidence that there was no reason to shoot to death those particular individuals. There are cases where police have shot to protect their life, which is within their discretion and within the law. There are cases where police have shot to protect the life of others, and that is again within their discretion and within the law. But in the majority of the cases, there has been no justification at all to shoot these people dead. There would have other means to handle those particular situations.
As Hussein has continually said, that police have a constitutional mandate. The only institution that has a mandate to protect lives and properties of Kenyans, and more so the civilian population. The military has a role, but they do the external role, we do the internal role. And therefore, it is quite regrettable when a case arises where a police officer, evidence shows that indicates that the hand of a police officer is involved. It is unfortunate we may not be able to discuss much evidence on what happened in this particular case because the matter is pending before court and it will be prejudicial. So I will limit the details of what could have happened or condemning directly. I would still term them as allegations, and that would not mean that we support what could have taken place. What I don't agree with is terming each and every death extrajudicial, because when you talk about extrajudicial, you talk about institutional, something that as an institution we have planned, we have agreed, and we've said we want to eliminate someone. That is not true, and it is not fair. And equally, it is also going to bring a very bad trend. Remember, we have been fighting as a country to talk about community policing. You know, when we put a rift between police and the public, the police will never be trusted by the public, and the public will never give information. I want to give a very clear example of this case, of this unfortunate case of the late Kimani. If it were not a member of the public coming up to give us information, because remember, most of the people who want to kill in this manner, they try to hide. It took the confidence of one Kenyan to come and explain to us what he saw. And that has led us to a lot of evidence. If it were not for that Kenyan, we would still be scrambling to know who actually committed this offense. So number one, I would want to discourage a situation where outrightly we condemn police blanketly. This is a very unfortunate incident, and the Office of the Inspector General and even the Office of the President have taken keen interest on this matter, and even today we got the 4th officer arrested. And I would want to plead with each and every Kenyan who's saying that let us handle this case within its merit, because even within our families we have a number of murders. That does not mean we justify, because we have a bigger responsibility and a lot is expected out of us.
So do you say again, like I said earlier, this should be treated in isolation? Are you saying then this has not been happening? What are you saying has been happening? Extrajudicial killings?
You know, what happens is we handle each case within its merit. Because, for example, we don't work in a hollow. If they have cases, for example, where they are having evidence about the police brutality or police killing or an institutional death, then we are not the only institution. They can liaise with IPOA, they can liaise with the DPP, and so on and so forth, and bring these cases to book. So equally, for every case where a person dies and there's suspicion that he has been killed, whether it is suspicion by police or any other person, we always open inquiries into the cause of death. And these things are put before a magistrate having jurisdiction, and what we always require is evidence. Lastly, we have an institution called the witness protection, which they ought to educate more people. That if you think that your information may be misused or may not be used appropriately by the police, then you can go through the witness protection in order that you be protected, and in order, because remember, Hussein, this is our country. And whether I'm a policeman or a civilian, because after all I'll not be a policeman forever, I would also want to see a country where there's respect for the rule of law.
Do you have such evidence? What he's talking about?
I'll tell you, the first thing I would like to clarify is that we as an institution, and together with other organizations within Nairobi and other parts of the country in civil society, have been very supportive of police reforms. And at no time have we taken a position where we condemn the entire police force. Because I think it's still a force, not a service. We are going there. We've done some. Can I cut you short? Can I cut you short?
So that you answer. Just a minute, so that you don't forget.
No, let me finish.
Just a short thing, so that you don't forget.
Let me clarify the particular point. I gave you a chance also to explain.
No, it's not a visual chance. I did not want you to forget, because you said a very critical thing.
He's saying it's a force and not a
yes, no.
Let him finish, then you'll make
and the reason is, the new constitution has provided a particular philosophy around policing. The constitution no longer talks about, the police as the sole actor in policing. It talks about policing and the key actors. One of the key pillars is the National Police Service. The other key pillar is the public. Now, we haven't seen an adoption of that philosophy as we move forward after the enactment of the new police laws, especially the National Police Service Act 2011. We haven't seen that. What we've seen is a clawback on some of the gains, taking away the independence of the Office of Inspector General, for example, taking away powers from the National Police Service Commission, an attempt to actually take away the independence of the board of IPOA. Now, those are clear indications that there's no political will to ensure that we respect the Constitution. So in terms of transforming the National Police Service, some steps have been taken. I recognize that, because we work together with the National Police Service. We work together on particular areas. We train officers. But we are not seeing transformation. What we are seeing is, quite a number of actions that don't seem to drive to a particular singular direction that would indicate that there's transformation within service.
Okay, I'll let him respond. I'll let him respond first.
Before, well, fine, I cannot respond to political questions.
So you wanted to cut him short. You said this is a point.
What I wanted to say is he was applying double standards somewhere. He's saying they don't condemn us entirely as police. At the same time, he's talking about extrajudicial killing, especially on this one involving these officers. Because I've said when you talk about extrajudicial killing, you are talking about an institutionalized, organized crime of eliminating an individual. And we are talking about specific examples.
Or individuals.
And that is what I'm saying, that truly it is good to be fair to the entire service. The officers who are facing terrorists, the officers who are getting killed every day in the line of duty, the officers who are working now at night under very difficult conditions with very low pay. Are you getting me? A few Kenyans who have sacrificed to be policemen because we are not forced to be policemen. It is very important. The other bit that you are discussing, that would discuss with the executive.
Do you have such evidence? And I'd asked you that question. Do you have such evidence? What he's saying is, if you're talking about extrajudicial killings, it's an institutionalized thing, organized to you know, eliminate an individual, or individuals. Is that what you've had? In your investigations, you said over the last 5 years?
I'll tell you, the fact that we have over 500 cases of people dead from police bullets in the last 3 years, since 2013.
Not self-defense and not protecting.
And the fact that Charles, my brother here, has not come to the public and said, out of the 500, over 500, we have investigated this number, we have reported this number as required by law to IPOA. You know, we have enabled the Internal Affairs Unit to do their job. As we speak, the Internal Affairs Unit is highly incapacitated.
They don't you know what you are talking about are policy issues.
I do agree, but that is what Kenyans expect of the National Police Service.
Do you have those figures?
We expect that
every year we release our crime reports, and in the crime reports we release even offences committed by police officers. What I would want to challenge you,
my question is, do those figures tally? What is saying? 500 cases.
You see, if there are cases where police officers have used firearms, we document whether we have charged an officer ourselves, whether it has come through IPOA, whether the information has come through them. We document. What I'm saying is, when you're talking about 500 cases of extrajudicial killings or policemen involved in killing, we are not the only institution that can charge police or can put police to book. For example, we have the IPOA. We have the DPP and so on. We have even authority for private prosecution. Surely, if you have evidence of 500 cases and we are adamant to act, why are you not using other institutions to put us to question?
Let's be practical then. Over the last
because I just don't want theory
you've had over the last 1 year. For example.
In the last 1 year?
Yeah.
Well, between January and May this year, we have already recorded 53 cases.
53 cases.
Yeah.
Now, out of from the police service, do we have the same figures? And has there been anybody
I may not
taken against by the police?
I may not tell exactly now the figures that we have, because I must be very accurate. But I'm sure we have cases where we have charged police officers for murder. I don't know how many we have this year, but I'm sure we can't miss cases where on our own volition we've investigated cases and taken people to court. And Hussein, what I'm saying is, and I want to give a very practical example, maybe I've told you this before, that we must get a formula of handling criticism to the police, not because we don't want to be criticized, because there's a larger population of police officers who may be very innocent in each and every case and would want to act correctly, diligently, professionally, and within the law. I can tell you that when a tree manages to grow in a desert, it will have to develop deep taproots, it will have to develop a thick skin, it will have to ensure it has small leaves for purposes of survival in the desert. Every time you attack police when there is an offense, and straight away, without clarification or anything or justification, you attack the head of police, you attack the minister, you attack the policeman, gentlemen, you are making us develop a thick skin, and you make us always come out in defense, and we even may lose direction on what ought to be done. So what I'm saying is we need to be very professional. If there is a case, this is our country. We have a responsibility, all of us, to ensure that it is safe. Nobody can celebrate the death of another. Let us not appear to be so critical, to be criticizing the police left and right, condemning the service without being fair to the service and not even realizing the much that we do every day. Like this week we have over-condemned us without even realizing how much have we done.
As a person involved in police reforms for many years, including lobbying for police reforms that Bomas won, with the police delegates who are there, I'll tell you this. We have no reason to condemn the police as an entire police service, and we have never done that. We always point out and say, if it is true that these killings are not an internal policy, a quiet policy, to use force as the default means of policing, and not use other means and other skills that police officers have, and they have those skills, then why are we not holding to account the hundreds of officers, who are involved in these criminal activities? We just recently had a case of 8 young men in Mukuru kwa Jenga, mowed down, and then you ask yourself, and the claim was that they were heading to a robbery, for example. And when you look at the post-mortem report,
so it's that frustration that makes you have no choice but to criticize.
Because the thing is, and Charles says very well, that they need the public. Yes, they need us to succeed in policing. But you cannot succeed to work with us unless you...
I want to challenge him on the 8. I want to challenge him on the 8. I want to be very practical. If you have a feeling that the 8 were unfairly shot, and the police has admitted, yes, we shot them, and we shot them because they were either involved in crime or they were going to commit crime. Definitely, I'm sure there is an inquiry into the cause of that death. There is an inquest. And if there is an inquest into this death, it will be put before a magistrate. It has already been put before a magistrate. I would humbly want to challenge you. Bring that evidence during the inquest. If the court establishes that there was an offense committed, action would be taken. In the rule of law, we must respect the rule of law. And that is why even when you kill your mother, you will be represented by a lawyer. So what I'm saying is, let us not be a crying community. Let us be a practical community. Not a community of writing reports to guard source for money. Let us be a practical community.
Can I make an offer?
Yes.
To Charles?
Yeah.
That we agree on a date.
Yes.
We sit at his table. I'm willing to go to his office. We sit and compare the statistics. Because what has been missing, even in international forums, at the UN, at the African Commission, is the police failure to provide statistics on what they have done. The statistics are provided in a very selective manner. I would be willing to come with my statistics. You bring yours. We can retain the confidentiality. We compare and ask ourselves, where have we gone wrong? I'm willing to do that.
In fact, what we will do is to put you with the internal affairs unit. Not even my office. You know, my office is more of a PR office.
But once they
for
get
the image, of the
capacity.
No.
So you're promising you'll do
yes,
that?
in fact, let me tell you. Sometimes back, you remember the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights came up that we had killed people, we had mass graves in Mandera. We offered ourselves, and we went there, and you know what happened. Before that, they had done a preliminary report. We told them, fine, you did a preliminary report, you didn't involve us. We wrote to them and asked them to come to us so that we could go together. They said they could not go. So no, we want to verify each and every allegation. It wasn't done. What I'm saying is, we are a nation. A policeman does not come from the moon. We belong to this country. We want our country to grow. We don't want negativity. But what we want is each and every person who commits a crime, whether he's a policeman or a civilian, must face the full force of the law.
Right, one of the few times on the big question we have an agreement and actually a solution, and we'll be following them to see if what Charles has promised will be adhered to, what you've requested. So thank you so much. Peter Kiama, of course, is the Executive Director, Independent Medico-Legal Unit Charles Owino, police spokesman, thank you so much for making time for The Big Question. Keep talking to us on 22422 and on Twitter using the hashtag The Big Question. We'll be back after this break.